Today, folks, I just wanted to take 5 minutes and kind of break down Alibaba stock and currently just how I feel about it. I'm hoping I can kind of offer some at-ease feelings discussions here because BABA has just been a really polarizing topic, which is really interesting to the general Chinese market because as much as we talk about Alibaba, why don't we talk about things like JD.com or Tencent or some of these other large caps? Well, the fact of the matter is BABA is the one that is getting absolutely crucified through this because, I mean, look at Tencent. It's only down 38%. JD.com is only down 25% from its all-time highs, but here is BABA down a whopping 60%. And this has become the forefronted conversation amongst many YouTubers out there when we're talking about what happens if this thing gets delisted, what leads to a delisting, how do their earnings currently look, are they lying about their earnings, and just generally, where do we sit with this company and what I consider buying it here. So consider hitting that like button, folks, if these discussions are something that would interest you. And let's first and foremost get right into this by saying this stock is unbelievably cheap. I mean, the upside potential from any valuation metrics run based off their current earnings capabilities should put them anywhere, in my humble opinion, between a $600 to the higher range of $1,000 price, which means you have a 5 to 10x, well, 6 to 10x upside from this current market cap on one of the largest operating companies in China, which, by the way, does more inventory shipments than even Amazon does. I mean, this thing is technically just a massive conglomerate here. So I am seeing a lot of articles coming out today like this because obviously today we've been getting a bit of a rebound. Alibaba stock forecasted for 2022. Is BABA like the bank stocks in 2009? Is this crash setting up for one of the best buying opportunities of a lifetime? I mean, take a look at the one day. The whole markets did rebound. It looks like Alibaba, after running up, is now selling off slightly, hitting a low there of about 112 a share and then jumping up about 11 or 12% on that one day. And I told you guys some of my plans surrounding the stock, which I'm going to reiterate in a second, but let's just kind of break down first and foremost the earnings that they just dropped for the quarter end of September 30th here, folks. And these numbers are just as good as any US tech company. I mean, take a look at this. Revenues grew 29% year over year. The income from operations up 10%. What's really interesting is the net income. I mean, they did a lot of adjustments here, up 87%. Take a look at the diluted shares, diluted earnings per share. The EPS is up 81%. These numbers are just utterly staggering, guys, all in RMB, which you can kind of convert to USD if you want. But these are huge numbers here, man. I mean, just absolutely astronomical, going from 155, million RMB to 200 million RMB. Just incredible stuff, right? And in other more recent news where we finally got to hear some comments about the stock price itself, because I mean, I was digging through earnings here and I could not find anything with Alibaba actually like really discreetly mentioning much about the stock price dropping. But since they're replacing the chief financial officer, they did mention a few times in here that, look, we don't care as much about the fluctuations in the stock prices, which most, people would say within a company about the stock price. I mean, just read a little article here. On a quote, the announcement of Alibaba's CFO transition today is the accumulation of extensive preparation over many years and part of Alibaba's leadership succession planning. The markets will always have ups and downs, but Alibaba has ambitious long-term goals. We are in a relay race and we must have new generations of talent to take the company forward. I trust Toby even more than I trusted myself when I first took up the CFO position years ago. I am confident that Toby, through his professional capabilities and leadership skills, and together with Daniel and the core management team, will successfully lead our team into the future, said Maggie Wu, Chief Financial Officer of currently Alibaba. And I also find it really interesting toward the bottom here, where they kind of give you this little quote, and I dug around because I found this interesting. It says, Alibaba's group's mission is to make it easy to do business anywhere. The company aims to build the future of infrastructure of e-commerce. It envisions that its customers will meet, work, and live at Alibaba, and that it will be a good company that will last 102 years. And I couldn't figure out why 102 years. And this comes back to a Jack Ma comment. I actually looked this up because I was like, why do you specifically state 102 years on every one of your filings? So how did Alibaba come up with 102 years? Well, 1999 plus 102 equals 2000 or 2101. Founded in 1999, Alibaba grasped the possibility to stay in business spanning 3 centuries. These 102 years are a statement to a long-term perspective and a commitment to sustainability, business, and development. So anyways, Just thought that was a really interesting comment. But putting that aside here, folks, let's talk about the delisting stuff, because as far as we can tell from the internal perspective on the business, people are happy. The company's doing great. Earnings are fabulous, just as good as any US tech company. So what about this delisting? What would lead to this? Well, if you want to watch a really good video, first and foremost, I think this is one of the best. Everything Money broke down what happens if BABA and Chinese stocks get delisted. And they basically kind of just extrapolate that they don't, like, it's not really the biggest deal in the world, because what happens is they just get transitioned to the Hong Kong exchange, and you actually end up owning those shares so long as your broker allows you to on that exchange. So what would lead to the delisting in the first place? Primarily what would happen is that the regulators in China will not allow the US regulatory people to come in and do the finance scrutiny and the rules that they have here in the US. And that just comes down to privacy and China not wanting, just foreign people coming into their offices and seeing kind of how everything, I guess, operates. I don't know exactly what the rules are, but it's more about policy than it probably is about Alibaba lying about their numbers. I think they're 100% truthful here. I just don't think China's just going to let random people come into their offices and do the same scrutiny, right, that they do in the US. Personal opinion. So I do think, however, that it is likely at some point in the future, there's a good chance that Alibaba does get delisted. What that means for you is that if they get delisted, you have to double check first and foremost that your broker allows you to buy Alibaba on the transition into the Hong Kong shares, because sometimes these brokers may just liquidate your shares. And if you believe in Alibaba as a long-term hold here at an incredible valuation, and you're willing to work through this FUD, then I think you could come out making a substantial amount of money off of this here, folks. So would I personally buy Alibaba? God, guys, I'm sitting with some cash. I'm looking at this thing and just itching every single day, but I'm constantly trying to remind myself that we are not out of the FUD yet. Honestly, I just want to see how things pan out over the next month with the Chinese rhetoric in the news, because there's no point trying to catch a falling knife. And a lot of people thought this thing couldn't go much lower than 200, and here we are at 125. And I wouldn't be surprised if this even dips below $100 a share, because again, the problem is if this does get forcefully delisted, then there's a lot of people that are going to be having to force liquidate the shares, and that is only going to lead to lower prices. So for me personally, guys, I'm still waiting, watching. If this news lightens up, the stock will probably skyrocket back to the $200 range, and I probably won't have the biggest problem buying back in at that price, because that's right where I sold out my last shares. And then at least I won't have to deal with a lot of this news cycle in between. I mean, that's how I feel about a lot of companies on my stock watch list. If they're downtrending, I'd rather just wait for the reversal and the news cycle to shift before I can comfortably buy in. However, if you want the real risk reward gains, this is probably where you're going to want to be buying it. I mean, these prices are astronomical, but again, they're astronomical for a reason, and I don't think it has anything to do with the fundamentals. But at this point, folks, I want to pass the Alibaba news off to you. What do you think about it? Are you guys interested in any of the other Chinese companies? I know Alibaba gets the forefront, but I really like Tencent, JD.com. I'm thinking about adding some of these foreign exposed growth companies to my portfolio at some point. I have cash ready to be allocated for it, just like I do with some other things. I don't ever rush all my money into the market for reasons like I'm seeing here. I love having the opportunity to know I can take advantage at any point in time. So in light of this, stay cool, stay awesome, and I look forward to catching you tomorrow.